If you think that I only play RPGs, you have no idea how wrong you are. Today, I'm gonna show you my favorite game on every single genre. With a few exceptions, of course. Alright, let's begin! Alright guys, we're gonna start with the genre of platformers. This was the very first video game genre I ever played, 2D platformers. The first video game I ever played was the regular Super Mario Bros. On the NES, that card which included also Duck Hunt. Duck Hunt is the reason I didn't like, and I still don't like, first-person shooters. Nothing against the game, because it's a good game, but I never really got into it. But I really got into Super Mario Bros. And then, several years later, after so many NES games, after so many NES platformers, I got the Super Nintendo with Super Mario World, and it totally blew me away. The magic of this game, the level design, the many different secrets, the many different hidden features, Yoshi. This is one of those games that I can easily still play today. I've beaten this game so many times, I lost count a long time ago. It's probably one of my most beaten games of all time. I know it's an overrated answer, but Super Mario World holds a special place in my heart. I love this game to pieces. I've done everything there is to be done in this game. You already know about this game, so let's move on to the next genre. Now that I talked about 2D platformers, what about 3D platformers? It's the same genre, but I just want an excuse to talk about Alice Madness Returns, which is actually a cross-genre, but in reality it's nothing more than an action-adventure game with some hack-and-slash elements, some horror elements, and some platforming elements. It just so happens that the platforming elements are huge here, which is why so many people consider this game as a 3D platformer. Now, Alice Madness Returns is actually a sequel to a PC game that's actually included here as a DLC on the PS3 version. That game, the original game, it's not bad, but it's not good either. I played the game, I think I made it halfway through the game, and I quit. I quit because I couldn't take it anymore. The game isn't bad, but it's just full of design problems, and I do recommend to play it out of curiosity, but it's not a game that I usually would recommend. Unfortunately, this is a direct sequel, Alice Madness Returns, and you kinda do need to play the first one to understand a few things of the second game, but the second game in terms of gameplay surpasses it by a landslide. It's a game that got extremely popular back in the day. You will see a lot of girls cosplaying as Alice in anime shows, gaming shows and shit. And it's a game that at the beginning, I thought it was overrated. I thought I wasn't going to enjoy it because everybody was hyping the game too much. But when I finally got it on sale, sealed, I picked it up, went home, played it, and didn't put the controller back, didn't put the controller down until I was finished with the game. It's such an amazing game, totally twisted, totally creepy, totally weird in the good sense of the word. I love this game, love me some horror stories, and like I said before, it's actually an action-adventure game, but I do have another game for that genre, and so this is like my favorite 3D platformer of all time. So for the action-adventure genre, I chose A Plague Tale: Innocence. This is part of a new series. It's a game developed in France by a French studio, and this is the first game, the new one. The sequel is coming out this year, or the next one I believe. In this game you control two siblings, Amicia and her little brother Hugo, who need to escape from the Inquisition because their mother is considered as a witch by the Inquisition, so they're hunting them down. But little by little you start realizing that they're actually after the brother because he seems to be sick of something that the Inquisition knows about. Most of the game, however, you'll control Amicia, which is a true, excellent, amazing heroine with great character development here. And about 80% of the game, you will be in this kind of stealth mode, a little bit like Metal Gear. You will need to hide from your enemies, to use whatever terrain available to you, to hide behind the murals, the walls, the bushes, the tables. You will need to do a lot of hiding in this game and then ambush your enemies or attack them from afar, or pretty much use the fire in terms of fire sticks or the light or lamps, to keep the rats away from you, the rats at bay. But the rats are deeply connected to this game and they have a lot to do with Hugo, the little brother. That's all I'll say. I'm not gonna spoil the game. This game is a freaking masterpiece. I strongly recommend it. Once I got this game, it's a gift from Rem. Thanks again. Once I got this game and I started playing it, I couldn't put the controller down. I beat this game in like 5 days. It's actually kind of long. You can beat this game in like 15 hours, so there's a lot to do, there's a lot of content, great graphics, great story, amazing heroine, love this game to death. A Plague Tale, definitely my favorite action-adventure game of all time. Moving on to beat 'em ups, we've got Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 4, Turtles in Time. Extremely popular game on the Super Nintendo. I don't have it. I used to have it. I had it 2 times, but I sold it like an idiot because I don't know, back then I wasn't that big into collecting. What an idiot, right? But that's my favorite beat 'em up of all time. Nothing can even come close to it. It wasn't the very first beat 'em up I played. Back when I still had the NES, I had these 2 games, Batman Returns, underrated game on the NES. I know most people are familiar with the Super Nintendo version. I love this one. And of course, Ninja Turtles 2, the arcade game, amazing game. But it wasn't until I played Ninja Turtles 4 on the Super Nintendo that it blew me away. I even played the arcade version, and the Super Nintendo version was just as great. It's one of those games that I've beaten a million times with different people, brother, sister, friends, everybody, right? And it's a game that I don't really need to talk about because it's so goddamn famous, and it definitely needs a re-release, even if it's only digital in the late-ass Switch emulator, whatever. But it's Konami. Konami owns this game, and that's bad news. Whatever the case, my favorite beat 'em up of all time doesn't change anything. Fighting games. You guys know I'm a huge fighting game guy. It's my second favorite video game genre of all time. Fighting games, I'm probably cheating because I'm including my 2 favorite fighting games of all time, but they're based on RPGs. Still, they're 2D fighting games, right? They're fighting games through and through, but they're actually also visual novels. Specifically the first one, which is a long-ass story, and you'll be reading a hell of a lot, and I mean a hell of a lot, exactly like a visual novel, and then in between you'll get one fight. So in the end, the story mode in the first Persona 4 arena, it's gonna be like 80% story and 20% gameplay. Of course, it has an arcade mode. Of course, it has a versus mode. Even online, you can play with different friends all around the world. It's an amazing game. I love the story. I love the characters. I love the new main character, Labyrinth. She won me over. Her story arc is one of the best, darkest story arcs in the entire Persona series. The second game has better controls, better fighting system, slightly better. There's not much of a difference between both games, but the story is kind of weaker. So if I had to choose one between these 2, it would be the very first Persona 4 Arena, because I love Persona 3, because I love Persona 4, and because I'm a huge fan of Arc System Works, the developers of this amazing masterpiece of a fighting game. Puzzles. Puzzle games. My favorite regular puzzle game is an overrated answer. It's Tetris on the Game Boy, I know, but it's the father of all puzzle games. I love it to death. I had it when I was little, grew up with that game, love it to pieces. But then we got several different variations of puzzle games, right? Including environmental puzzles, which were kind of trending back in the day when Limbo was released, and then Inside. Amazing games, those 2 are pretty close to be my favorites, but the king of it all, in my opinion, is Little Nightmares, also on the Xbox One. In Little Nightmares, you control a little girl called Six, and that's all you know about the story. You know nothing else. All you know is that she's kind of trapped somewhere. Later, you realized she's in a ship. That's all I'm gonna say. The game is creepy as hell with super deformed, horrible-looking characters, horrible-looking enemies. So it has some survival horror elements and also some platforming elements, but at its core, it's an environmental puzzle. You'll be trying to solve these puzzles in every single room, in every single area, to escape your enemies or to move on to the next room. The music here, the atmosphere, the graphics, the sound, the controls, everything is freaking perfect. I salute the team who made this game. Such an underrated studio. I'm so glad they released a sequel. I haven't played the sequel, but I'm pretty sure I will eventually. The first one, however, Little Nightmares, masterpiece, definitely my favorite environmental puzzle game of all time. I don't think any game can ever come close to it. Maybe the sequel, right? Who knows? For now, Little Nightmares, the first one, my favorite. I am not really into the Metroidvania type of genre. It isn't really a true genre because it combines elements of, just action, platforming, side-scrolling elements. But, it's a genre, adopted genre nowadays, right? So, Metroidvania. I played some Castlevania games on the NES. They beat the crap out of me. I couldn't beat a single one of them. I played Metroid and Super Metroid. Super Metroid's an amazing game. But my favorite Metroidvania of all time is Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. This is a game developed, obviously you already know that, by the same guy who worked on Castlevania Symphony of the Night and the Nintendo DS games and the Game Boy Advance titles. While it didn't quite hook me into Metroidvanias, this game in particular, I absolutely loved it. It's brutally hard, like, most Metroidvania games. Beautifully looking, gothic style, you know me, I love me some gothic style games, some gothic horror games, gothic theme games. And to have played and experienced such a game like this, it's amazing. If you like Metroidvanias and you haven't played this game, do yourself a favor, do it. Some people say it's not as good as Castlevania Symphony of the Night. I'm pretty sure that's because of budget reasons. After all, it was an independent release. But give this game a try if you can. It's an amazing game. I totally recommend it. And to date, it stands as my favorite Metroidvania of all time. I'm gonna cheat again and I'm going to include an action-adventure game in another genre called third-person shooter. Now, we've already established I don't like first-person shooters one bit, not a single game, but third-person shooters, I like some of them, and Danganronpa, another episode, Ultra Despair Girls, is my favorite of them all. No, it's not a visual novel, it's not a puzzle game, it is a third-person shooter. It's also a hack and slash game because in this game you control two main heroines, two characters, and the other one, Toko, which is Genocide Jack, the girl with multiple personality. I love that character so much. She's my all-time favorite Danganronpa character. She uses scissors to attack, so she's the hack and slash mode. But most of the time, the majority of the time, you'll be playing with Komaru, which is the third-person shooter part. The controls are kind of weird and kind of hard to get used to, but make no mistake, you do get used to them, and it's such an amazing game because it's so weird, so unique. There's absolutely no other game like this, nothing like it. Such a unique experience, bizarre, extremely weird, very dark sense of humor like the Danganronpa series is known for. Twisted, bloody, stupid, silly, it's just everything dumb in the good sense of the word all at once. Really recommend this game if you're into the Danganronpa series, or even if you aren't into that series, play this game. It's not a visual novel like the other games. This is a third-person shooter through and through with some hack and slash elements. It's an amazing game, such an incredibly underrated game on the PS Vita, also on the PS4 and Steam, I think. Another genre I don't really like is racing games, the regular racing games like Gran Turismo, Need for Speed. I'm not really into those games. But I am into karting games like Mario Kart. Crash Team Racing is the one that won me over. This is one of the very first games that I got when I had my first PlayStation. Previously, I had played other Mario Kart games like the Mario Kart 64, Mario Kart on the Super Nintendo, and I gotta admit, I'm not the biggest fan of those games. But this one, when I played this game, I was like, wow, this is so much better. I'm not saying this is better than Mario Kart 8, I think Mario Kart 8 is a better game, but this is nostalgia for me. This is a game that I beat in story mode, which is a pain in the ass, and also it's a game that I beat with friends. I played with my sister, I love it to pieces. It's a regular racing game with the characters of the Crash Bandicoot universe, nothing else to talk about. It's very similar to the Mario Kart games where you get items during the races to attack your enemies or to put traps to them, etc. It plays just like that. So it's a Mario Kart clone, where it's, I think, the best Mario Kart clone of all time, and obviously my favorite kart racing game ever. And it just so happens that in the party genre, like the Mario Party games, my favorite is another clone and another Crash game. Again, it's based on the Crash Bandicoot universe with a lot of characters and some of the bosses, some of the enemies of those games. Amazing game, but it's brutally hard. I never beat this game. It's a game that I'd rather play with my friends or somebody else with my sister. My sister and I play this game to death. But instead of playing like Mario Party with the board and all and the dice, no, you just randomly select, the mini games available, and you gotta beat them all per area to move on to the boss fight and so on, right? It's an overly addictive game because some of the mini games can be so frustrating, but you're there back over and over again until you beat them. That's how good this game is. An amazing game, I totally recommend it. If just for the mini games, if you're gonna play the story mode, I wish you the best because it's so hard. But if you play this with a friend just to play a few mini games, you will have a total blast like I did. My favorite party game of all time, Crash freaking Bash. You already know Chrono Cross is my favorite RPG of all time, no reason to talk about it, so let's move on to another genre. We've reached survival horror games, which during my early 20s it became my favorite genre of all time. That's until I played Chrono Cross and got me addicted to RPGs. But for a long time, survival horror was one of my favorite video game genres. It isn't anymore today, but back in the day I used to be a big fan of Silent Hill, the first Resident Evil games, and then I played Haunting Ground on the PlayStation 2, which I thought was a masterpiece. This is one of those games that got really popular because of its price. It's extremely expensive and rare nowadays, but that doesn't change the fact that it's an amazing game, extremely unique. It was supposed to be Clock Tower 3, but something happened in between. There's a long story about it, and they changed the title and the design and called it now Haunting Ground. The real name is actually Demento, which I thought was an amazing name. In this game you control Fiona, lost in a castle, who has been actually kidnapped, but she doesn't know by whom or what for. And in this castle, this mansion, this place is ginormous, and she'll have to find a way, with the help of a dog, to escape, to make it out of there alive. But like the Clock Tower games, you have one character who's chasing you around, and whenever you run into this character, you gotta run away or hide from this character. But unlike the Clock Tower games, in this game you have 5 different antagonists. You will have to beat each and every single one of them until you reach the end. Extremely creepy game, extremely dark. It's highly sexualized, but it's one of those games where the sexualization actually makes sense. You can read all about that in the Wikipedia article if you want to. Amazing game, totally recommend it. If you can, do yourself a favor and emulate this game. Don't pay the outrageous price it has nowadays. But if physical media is the only way to play this game, I wish you the best. Hack and slash, most people will tell you God of War, Devil May Cry, or the Dynasty Warriors series, which I actually like. And most of my hack and slash favorite games are action RPGs, like the Nier games or Dragon Quest Heroes 1 and 2, etc. But the true hack and slash, no RPG elements or whatever, that I love to death is Dante's Inferno. This is a game that it blew me away. The story was so dark, so mature, so bloody, so gorish, and there was some nudity here, and I was like, wow, nudity in a video game. Believe it or not, it was one of my first times seeing actual nudity uncensored in a video game. But that's not the point. The point is that Dante's Inferno has amazing controls, amazing gameplay, several actual gameplay mechanics involving some platforming here and there, and the use of your long-ass chains, and the boss fights are so epic in this game. That's what won me over. And of course, the story. I've read the original book, Dante's Inferno, and this is an amazing reimagining of that book, but in the darkest sense possible. I really recommend this game. It's still dirt cheap. Well, maybe not that cheap anymore, but still cheap. You can still find it for a decent price. If you haven't played this amazing game, do yourself a favor and do it. Especially if you like games like God of War, which is like the competition of this game. Shoot 'em ups. When it comes to shoot 'em ups, my all-time favorite horizontal shoot 'em up is Dead Smiles. It's kind of a contradiction because this is a game about lolis. You control 5 different lolis, gothic lolitas actually, into this, extremely bizarre story and whatever. You don't play this game for the story. And that's why I like it, because usually I don't like lolis in RPGs, for example, because they're annoying and some of them are sexualized. And in these games, you don't really pay attention to that because it's more about the gameplay. And the gameplay, man, it's amazing. It's beautifully looking. The graphics are amazing, the controls, the sound, the difficulty is just right, just balanced. The bosses are insanely unique and original. Love this game, amazing experience. But if we're talking about vertical shoot 'em ups, then my favorite will be yet another extremely rare and unknown title called Shikondo. It's a digital only game, but it got some physical release on special editions. It goes for crazy amounts of money nowadays. I don't have it, but that's another beautifully looking game. Check it out if you can. It's usually on sale with some other games in a bundle. And if I had to choose between the two, only one, even though one is vertical and the other is horizontal, I will actually go with Shikondo. Unlike Dead Smiles, it's actually more of a bullet hell, but it's so relaxing. It's also really hard, but it's not that hard as many other shoot 'em ups out there. It's amazing. 2-player co-op mode. Check it out if you can. Shikondo, definitely my favorite shoot 'em up of all time. When it comes to run and gun games like the Contra games, for example, my favorite is Metal Slug X on the PlayStation. I love this game. I don't have it because it's always been kind of expensive and rare and hard to find, but it's also a game I've actually never played on the PlayStation. I played it on the Anthology on the PlayStation 2, and that Anthology you can find it on the PSP as well, and I think there's also one on the Wii. Now, I've played most of the Metal Slug games, and they're all just as great, but not a single one can top my favorite Metal Slug X. I think it's when the series got really good, like it did everything right, like everything was so freaking addictive and amazing and beautifully looking. Those sprites, those graphics, how they can handle all these freaking things at once in the screen and most of the time without any lag whatsoever, goes beyond me. Overly addictive game, like I said at the beginning. Hopefully someday I can have it, or at least the Anthology version on a physical release someday. Anyway, if you haven't checked out Metal Slug X, I strongly recommend it. Don't worry, you can die a million times and it has infinite continues. That's the only way to beat this tough motherfucker. Now, when it comes to tower defense games, my all-time favorite, believe it or not, I'm not joking, it's a guilty pleasure of mine, it's Plants vs. Zombies. I first played this game on PC, on my laptop, back in 2012. That's all I had to play back when I first had my store, and I loved the game and I finished it, but a couple of months later I got a hold of a Nintendo DS, and that's when I finally started playing Plants vs. Zombies on the DS, and oh boy, this is the version that I played a million times. Every now and then, whenever I was playing an RPG, let's just put it this way, I was taking breaks every now and then between RPGs, and the only game that I will play was Plants vs. Zombies. I know it's an extremely overrated game, available on all platforms from back then. Even your mother played this game, even your grandparents play this game, everybody plays it, everybody loves it. I don't care, I know it's overrated as hell, I love it to pieces. And instead of being a tower defense, it's a house defense, a garden defense, which is so silly. Anyway, extremely addictive game, totally recommend it. If you haven't played this game, because everybody has already played it, don't worry, you go and play it too, you won't regret it. Amazing game, Plants vs. Zombies, any version of it, specifically the one on PC or this on the Nintendo DS, which are the best. The next genre I want to talk about is a surprise. I don't like this genre one bit. I only like one game out of the hundreds of thousands of games there are in this genre, and I've played my fair share of them, and I don't like a single one of them except this one. I don't have it. It's on the Super Nintendo. It's called
International Superstar Soccer Deluxe.
Yeah. When I was little, I played baseball on the NES. I played some NBA Jam on the Super Nintendo. I've played some FIFA games, some basketball games, some NBA games, some hockey games even, some tennis games. I played Mario Tennis even, and I don't even like them. I don't like this genre one bit. I don't like sports in real life. I don't care about, sports in real life. I don't like video games when it comes to sports, except this game. I love it because it is a very competitive game. It's very technical. We used to play with my friends in high school. We played it with my family. My entire family was playing this goddamn game. I've played several other soccer games, even on the Super Nintendo, and I can't get into a single one of them because they're just not International Superstar Soccer Deluxe. I love the music, I love the characters, I love the teams, I love the controls, the tricks. It's just an amazing game. Play it. If you like sports games, you're probably missing out on this amazing game. Someday I'll have it back in my collection. The last genre I want to talk about is visual novels. Now, I don't have a favorite visual novel. I'm not really into that genre, but I mean the genre when where it's just reading and reading and reading and eventually, occasionally, just make a decision. Those types of games, I've played only like 3 or 4. I like them, but I wouldn't consider myself a fan of the genre, unless visual novels have a mix of another genre like an RPG or puzzle or strategy RPG. I'm not really into visual novels, so I might be cheating here. If I had to choose one of these, you probably already know which one is my pick. Sakura Wars, of course, I've talked about this game a million times. I think I'm brand new to the visual novel genre, to the real visual novel genre, so maybe one day I'll get into it, maybe one day I'll find my favorite visual novel of all time. I'll take some recommendations that you guys have given me over the course of time, and it's a genre that I think I can get into with patience. But for now, if I had to pick, even though I'm cheating because this is an RPG in my opinion, it will be Sakura Wars. So that's it guys, those were my favorite games on every single genre that I care about and that I like. There were some exceptions like first-person shooters or racing games or sports games. Well, there was a game that I liked, right? But you know, I don't like every single genre out there, but most of them. Thanks for watching, don't forget to subscribe and share this video with your friends. See you next time!